All right, troops.
Alex, my friend, great to speak to you. How you been getting on, man?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing really, really well. Back gigging last night for the first time since the Fringe.
Yeah,
Thoroughly
good.
enjoyed it.
How did you find it with your first gig back? Like since obviously because you've been the Fringe and then you had your gig last night. What was there any ring ruts? Did you feel or anything like that?
I thought it was a wee tiny bit because I was doing slightly different material to what I would normally do. I'd done most of it before, but I hadn't put it all together before like that. So
Mm,
I was a bit worried I was going to forget something, but I seemed to get through it not too bad. I think I had one wee stumble, that was it.
yeah. Well, for the listeners at the time of this recording, Alex and I were performing at a gig last night. It's a new material night, and let's say like with a lot of the acts, you absolutely crushed it. It was brilliant.
It was a very good night, and I genuinely thought there was no failures last night. I thought it was
No,
a very.
so say a lot of
Sorry,
people thought that as well. What we were all talking like nobody seemed to have a point where they were like, "Oh my god, this is bombing." What it just seemed to work well. Everybody flowed really good. What the night was really good. What thoroughly enjoyable. What as all the acts were. So yeah, very well done, my friend.
thank you very much, and yourself.
Mm. Yeah. Well, this is part of my thing, obviously talking up my guests, but I don't just want to talk them up. I want to talk about you and in particular your origin story. Because the one thing we all have in common is that we all have an origins. So Alex, for my faithful followers, please tell us your origin story.
I grew up in Kirkton after moving out of Glasgow as a baby, um, in a wee village called Waterside.
Mm.
Strange wee place, but we stayed outside the village in just six houses.
Yeah.
Had a very good friend there. Mother and father divorced at a young age, which was unheard of in my day.
Mm.
So I know it's very common now, but it wasn't very common then. And they were a mixed marriage, which was very unusual. But I
Mm.
think it's given me a good outlook in life.
Yeah.
I had one grandfather who was a member of Sinn Féin, and the other grandfather who was a Grand Master in the Orange Lodge.
Wow.
Um, and they got on with each other. They got on famously well.
Wow.
And I think if they could get on together, anybody can get on together. I don't believe in
Uh,
it's not possible to bring people together.
I was kind of the same with the like you're saying like the mixed marriage, like what would have been considered a mixed marriage for like my parents was that like my dad was a Catholic, my mom was a Protestant, so it was the same kind of thing. Well,
Yeah,
in that
definitely.
in that sense, like they were like, oh my god, this is unheard of. Like, I mean, mixed marriages now could be anything and everything these days. Like, you know, you've got people marrying train station walls, people marrying themselves, people marrying toasters. At least something will
Yes.
pop if they marry a toaster. Something's gonna pop.
Yeah, you're gonna
Yeah,
get something.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's quite
I've
yeah,
seen
it's
a
quite
few of the
interesting.
programs.
Yeah,
It can be. I think, yeah, as you say, it's so normal now that people wouldn't bat an eyelid. But back in my day, it was frowned upon and it was looked down
mm,
on, and the divorce in particular was very,
all
very
right.
strange. And I think now it's more uncommon in a classroom for children to have parents who are together than split up.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's why people are so confused with like me and my wife's situation because we live in separate places, but we're still married and we still like love each other and we still make sure we have that family time whenever we can. So what I think that's what's confusing everybody else. Or like when they say they're separated, oh what so when's the divorce? So what, and how's that gonna work with the kids? I'm like, works exactly the same way. It just I go home and sleep in a different place. It's actually really good. I don't bother my wife with my snoring anymore. It's fantastic. Uh,
I think my wife would quite like that as well.
yeah.
But she's not banished me to the spare room yet. But there's time. There
there's
is time.
plenty there's plenty of time. Like I've said that if I ever do come back, there'll need to be a transition period where I start at the couch, well, and then
Yeah.
slowly make my way back up, well, until she's used to the snoring again. But when you're talking about like like no the divorce side of it, were people like outwardly hostile towards like your parents being divorced, or was it that kind of the way when the comedy circuit it's always the kind of the behind the scenes bitching? Was it like that?
Yeah. I think there was quite a bit of that kind of went on. I think there was quite a bit of bitching went on. And I think that because of the reaction as children. And I think some of that came from parents.
Yeah.
Like, oh, don't hang about with him. He's the wee boy that's not got a dad. That kind of thing. And
Well,
my mum and dad, it was quite a messy divorce,
oh,
and wasn't nice for a long, long time. I
mm,
mean, eventually it was a great thing. You get two sets of Christmas presents, you get two birthday presents.
mm,
These things. There are
yeah.
plus sides to it,
Yeah.
and you got to
Again,
spend
that's where
time.
my kids are going to get screwed because Alison and I, we jokingly talked about it at first, like when I first had to leave. I was saying like you can still use my Netflix as long as I can, and I'll still buy your Disney Plus for your Christmas. And she was like, "Okay, just to clarify, the boys ain't getting two separate presents for us. They're identical twins, so we already got one free hit. Let's take another one. What? So any presents are from both of us." And I was like, "This is why I love you so much." Even in the most shitty of circumstances, she still understands that I am a tight bastard.
Definitely. It's the way to go, definitely. If you divorce, keep talking to each other.
Uh,
Mine certainly didn't for many years. And I
yeah.
think, I mean, my dad's dead now, but my mother still was, up until he died, was quite bitter about the whole thing. And
Well,
she had some reason to be.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, if it's a
things
messy
that
divorce, like it's understandable. Do you think it was a bit like it was a benefit them getting divorced rather than how they had the whole they stay together for the kids and the household is like toxic and stuff like that? Do you think it was
no,
better like when them getting divorced, or do you think it was like what
I think it was much better they got divorced. They just were two people who should never really have been together.
right?
It was I wouldn't say it was a violent house, but it was a house that was very noisy. There was a lot of shouting, a lot of screaming, a lot of histrionics, and they were
Yeah.
much better apart. They were nicer people, both of them apart.
Hmm.
And my dad went on to have quite a successful marriage with someone else, who was quite a nice woman. And out of that, I got another brother and sister. So
Hmm.
a dad to the brother I had. So it was all good in the end.
Hmm.
Certainly for the kids' point of view.
Yeah, well, and it's quite good as well. It's like my gran, and she's also, she's a couple generations before you. Her, I think it was her dad, had married again. So they wound up with a blended house. Like I think it was about 13 kids. So again, I was thinking in later life, the Christmas presents, the amount of ones that they would have got.
I don't think they got Christmas presents the way that we get Christmas presents then. You
Uh,
get one wee thing and that was you and you were happy
yeah,
for it. I
yeah,
think
but it was
back then my
quite.
grandpa was one of 17.
Wow.
Um, it's just frightening. I think my grandma was one of 11. So
Yeah.
between them, they had, and in fact, there was 18 and 12 because they had 17 brothers and sisters and 11 brothers and sisters. So that
Whoa.
was 30 kids between them.
And it makes you wonder, like, 'cause you know how they say, like, the world's overpopulated and stuff. Well, and we're having families of like, I mean, my case two was max because that was one more
Yeah.
than I expected with it
Um,
being twins. But what you think at 17 and 13 like kids, and the world wasn't overcrowded then? How does that work?
I mean, people look at me and I've got five, and go, oh my God, how can you have that many?
Wow,
Um,
that's respect. That is respect right there. Like, but my brother-in-law, he's got four. He's got four. And even then, we're like, that's double us. How do you live?
it, it was hard work at times.
Mm,
It was a lot of work at times, and I probably was out of the house far too much. I think that's why I'm really enjoying the comedy now.
yeah.
I worked constantly just to be able to afford things, particularly when my wife couldn't work at certain times.
Wow.
Um, and we got through that and came out the other end of it. And we both get good jobs now, and you know, I wouldn't say we're wealthy or anything like that, but
Mm.
we're okay. We do fine. We're not struggling like a lot of families are.
Is it
So we're lucky in that
comfortable?
respect.
Comfortable they say now.
Yeah, we're
Aye.
comfortable.
And that's good. Well,
Um,
that's great. I got a massive respect for you for that. Like, because it's not easy having kids, like, and it's something that I've tried to. With me moving out, people are like, "Oh, you failed as a dad," and I'm like, "No, I'm actually trying my best to become a better dad because me being in the house wasn't being helpful. It wasn't helping those kids. Me being out, I'm having. Yes, I hate not seeing them every day, but I have more quality time with them. And the experiences I have with them are always positive. So what they don't realize sometimes the struggles you've got to go through to try and give the kids what you never had.
yeah,
So massive respect for you, my friend. And considering like the profession that you're in as well. I mean, I found out also last night what it was that you do and the extent of it. But from my audience, like the gig that you do, like out with comedy is very tough. Like if you're comfortable talking about it and obviously what you can talk about, like please like
Yeah, no,
tell
I
us.
don't mind. I'm a forensic psychiatric nurse. I retired a couple of years ago, but early at 55. I took early retirement. But
Mm,
like most nurses, I've gone back. I think I lasted 6 weeks and then I went, oh no, I need to work.
mm,
So I'm back. I work 3 to 4 days a week within the same place that I used to work, just at a lower grade. And it's
yeah.
great because I enjoy the job more now, because I had moved up to the management side of things
Mm.
and I had still had contact with patients, but it was more contact with staff. But now I'm back now, it's more contact with patients and I'm really enjoying that.
Yeah, well, and would that have been the thing that you missed, like like having like the hands-on interaction with patients rather than it being like dealing with the essentially the office politics?
Yeah, definitely.
Mm,
Definitely. I mean, nobody goes into nursing because they want to manage things. They get into nursing because, well, I would hope nobody goes into nursing because they want to be a manager. They would
mm,
go into it because they want to look after people. They want to
yeah,
help people.
yeah, because my aunt's a nurse. Like she's last I checked, what her she was urology. That was
Right?
where she worked. So everything kind of below the belt, which was awkward when my dad had to get like a certain procedure down there.
Yeah.
And that was where they got transferred to. Like, so that was an interesting story. Like
Yeah.
I would say, with your type of like the patients that you work with, like there's obviously got to be some challenges when it comes to that.
There definitely is. My patients have a criminal background and usually a very serious criminal background, but
Mm,
also have mental health issues.
mm,
And a lot of the crimes that they were involved in were committed because they had mental health issues.
yeah.
So a lot of people look at them as bad or whatever, and they're not. They're just people who have been unwell.
Mm,
The brain's another organ, the same as every other organ in the body, and sometimes it goes wrong, and sometimes, it needs work on it. I mean, it needs a
yeah.
bit of help to function properly.
Yeah.
And
And it's one of
sometimes, unfortunately, things can
yeah.
happen bad, if it goes wrong.
Yeah, and it's one of the organs that still a lot of people don't understand. Like, I mean, plenty of people are trying to work it out, but because every person's brain is different, you're never going to get a full. This is exactly what's wrong with your brain, and this is how we're going to fix it. Sadly, it doesn't work like that, depending on how you regulate your emotions and all that kind of stuff. But so the transition from going from the type of nursing that you do to stand up comedy,
It
how?
was a sheer It was a sheer accident. I had no desire to do it. I had left, I had retired, so I went and done a couple of things that I'd wanted to try. I went and did a bit of blacksmith and I made myself a ski and do, and I
Yeah.
did a couple other wee courses like that, just silly things, that I just thought, oh, I fancy doing that. I went swimming with sharks, that kind of thing.
Wow.
Um, and then I booked my boy. My boy is very theatrical. He used to be very theatrical, and
Mm,
he used to be the lead in the Falkirk Youth Theatre. And he went to acting school when he finished up, but he only lasted 6 months. And he went, "No, I want a real job," and he left it.
mm,
And he's never done anything since then. And I just thought it was a waste,
yeah.
because he was very high up at one point in it and did really well in it at youth theatre level.
Yeah.
He was at the kind of top of the game there. And so I
Yeah.
booked him the comedy course because he's a funny wee guy. And I thought, go on this. And at the last minute, he pulled it.
Right.
And I was left with, asked for the money back. They said, no, because I am also a tight bugger.
Mm.
And they said, no, you can't get the money back. It'll just go. We have the same first name. It was booked under his name. And I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to go and do this. I'm not wasting £200. So I
Exactly.
did it thinking I'll only do this once and then that'll be it. And I loved it. The biggest
Wow.
mistake that happened to me was somebody came up at the end and said, I book acts for the Edinburgh Fringe. And if it wasn't the last week of the Fringe, I'd have booked you. And I
Oh,
thought, oh,
brilliant.
no, no. It
I
wasn't
know.
because they
It's a
led me down.
backhanded compliment, isn't it? It's one of those ones you're like, thank you for saying it, but really?
But now I need to go and do some more of this. So I ended up going and doing Viv G's course after that,
Oh,
like
wow.
a lot of comedians, and thoroughly enjoyed that. And it's just taken off since then, and I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. I've had a great time.
Brilliant. Like, so you finally got round to the fringe, like, as we discussed. Like, so how did you find like finally getting there? Like, after getting that kind of the backhanded compliment, like to
Yeah,
say
I
that we
mean,
booked you, now you're there.
I had done the one gig last year at it. Obviously, at the end of the course, we did the one gig, and that was the gig the person had saw. But no, I was involved in 15 gigs this year.
Wow.
80 my own ones. They were compilation shows. It was difficult, especially the first week. There didn't seem to be the numbers the first week, but everything picked up the second and third week, and it was quite a success. I think by the end, it went really really well. To the very last one that I was involved in, we had a roast and we sold that out. So it was really good. And I was involved in a couple of other shows as well that were sellouts. So it was great to be able to say, yeah, I've been involved in a sellout show at the Fringe. How many people in life are you going to meet that can say that?
Not many. Well, definitely. You're talking to one of the very few people who people say are a comedian. I use that with air quotes for me. But like it's like you're talking to one of the very few who has still never performed at the Fringe, whether it be acting, singing, comedy, whatever. Like it was meant to happen 2023, but my mental health took a tank. Well, I just wasn't
Yeah.
ready, and I just wasn't confident enough to do it. But it's one that I want to try and tick off the bucket list before I get to a certain milestone. But I've just not got that confidence yet. So I really admire that you've got that, especially doing a roast like in like the final week.
Oh,
How was that?
I didn't take part in it. I was just one of the ones organising it. And we went up at the front and introduced the acts on and, held up hands and decided who had won it and who hadn't won it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I
So
was supposed to take part in it, but finally at the last minute, somebody else came in and begged to play a part in it. So we let them take my part, which
yeah.
I was really glad about.
So for those that aren't aware, like what exactly are like was it a roast battle?
Yes, we
So
had six battles,
mm,
and everybody had five statements or whatever you want to call it. A five goes at slagging somebody off and making them cry, um, and they just got to go backwards and forwards with each other, and some of them were brutal,
yeah.
absolutely brutal. But it's what people signed up for.
Mm,
It's basically bullying for a laugh. Um, and you willingly sign up for it and allow
yeah.
someone to do this to you, it's quite a
Yeah.
scary thing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think that's where I kind of stumbled because like I organized like when I still worked in the financial sector. Well, there was a Halloween thing going on. I thought I'm going to do something nice for everybody, like and get like because there was always like in offices there's reward and recognition, and it always seemed to be the same people that got the rewards, but what other people didn't. And I thought I'm going to change that. Well, I'm going to get wee nice things for them, but I'm also going to try and mix in a little bit of comedy because I'm a cheeky git. What? And then so I thought, right, if I'm going to do it for those guys, I'm going to really I'm going to get the big bosses up and I'm going to go for it because the most I ever say to the bosses are hello. Well, I
Yeah,
thought, right, I'm going to go for it. It's either going to make me or it's going to break me. Well, and I went for it. I roasted them like properly. My big boss, I always used to wear like studded t-shirts. He was very into his bling, so I said that, that's a guy with more studs than a breeding farm. Like, and so his boss came up to me and went, "Your career's on the line here, mate." And I went, "You're so sweet. You thought I had a career." And I thought, screw it. I'm in now. I'm just going to torch them. But they absolutely loved it. And they came up to me. They were like, "I had no idea you had that in you." And I'm like, "There's a lot you don't know." So they got me to do it again at Christmas. And you know what it's like when you're asked to do it again, you feel under more pressure because the other one you're like the handbrake is off and I'm like, how am I going to be able to do this and not get fired but also keep that level that I was looking for?
yeah.
Well, I think I did okay, but it's no surprise that I left the company about 2 years later. So yeah, like
You can imagine.
roast battles, like I think I would be easy pickings for everybody. Like, I'm ginger, I've got glasses, I'm left-handed, well, I've got mental health issues. It's like, okay, that's like the weak member of the herd.
Yeah, but sometimes when you know what's coming, it's easy to prepare for it. So and then you always make sure if you're doing a proper roast battle, you make sure you know plenty about the person you're doing it against, and that's I think
Yeah.
the secret. So you have lots of information on them, and it makes a good roast battle if you do know plenty about each other that you
Yeah.
can do that,
Yeah.
and
And
it
I
works
think that,
better that way.
yeah, I think that was how the guys at the work had no clue how to fire back at me because I'm not like this when I was in a 9 to 5 set. I was very quiet and just kind of kept myself. So when I launched, everybody was like, how do we fight this little fucker? And it's like, but he knows so much about us, and we know nothing about him. And I'm like, that's the point. Know your enemy.
Yes. I think that's the thing about workplaces. There's so many quiet people in it that you know nothing about, and they have all these hidden talents and
Mm,
depths, and they're much deeper people than a lot of people kind of think.
yeah,
And it's good when they get a chance to come out like that, and you
yeah.
get to see it.
And it was something that, like, when I obviously got the people up that I was doing the recognition for, like the guys that were kind of like me, the quiet ones that did the work but never kind of shouted or sung about it. They were the ones that everybody was like, ah, I did not realize that they did that. And I'm like, that's the point. And that's why I do
Mhm.
obviously the stuff I do. I try and promote like the little guys. I try and help people what as best I can, or just like help my pals and promote things. Which also leads me to like the gigs that you've got coming up. So tell us about that if you've got any coming up and where they are.
Uh, I've got a few with Graham Mackey. Had asked me to do four with him. I can't remember exactly where they are and everything, but there's two in
Mm.
Paisley and two in Glasgow in November.
Yeah.
And I do the Falkirk Wine Library. I run Moon Night, the comedy club in the Falkirk Wine Library, once a month. So the next one of that's on Wednesday the 15th, and we'll
Wow.
have that one. And then worst of all, because they knew I would say no, and
Mm.
obviously, when someone challenges you, you have to say yes. I am singing a karaoke comedy night on the 15th of December through in Edinburgh. And I'm singing
Ah,
Rihanna's Umbrella. And I have to have
wow.
an outfit for it. So I'm
Oh
not
wow.
sure. So I'm not sure. And I don't sing karaoke.
Yeah. So but a karaoke comedy night, that's something I've never actually heard of. Is it just like, kind of like what to do with those lip sync battles, except you're actually singing and trying to make them laugh at the same time while doing it?
I think it's going to work along the line you go up and do 5 minutes of comedy and then sing a song. But
Wow.
I'm not 100% sure yet. The person who's organised it is literally just confirmed a venue, and she's getting around now to kind of passing everything on to us. It's a young girl called Tasha Mott. I think she's the youngest person on the circuit, and she's incredibly talented.
Hmm.
And it was wonderful to watch her at the Fringe because she did, I think, 4 gigs with me at the Fringe. And the first one, you could see the growth every gig she did. You could just see that she was growing in confidence and
Hmm.
getting better and better and better. And she's doing quite a few high profile gigs now, and she's
Well,
still only 17.
it's
And
amazing.
to have that confidence at that age is just frightening.
I know. It's
Um,
like when I was 17, like I could barely look at myself in the mirror, let alone do that.
yeah, I think I was probably the same.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I did
So
that like your son, like I did acting and stuff, and I was good at that, but there was a difference between like me on stage to me off stage. Like I could be that type of person where I was just blown out the water, and then off stage it was quickly shrinks down. It was just such a like it was like a snap of a finger
yeah,
how it would happen. Has your boy ever thought about going back to doing like his theatre or that? Because they always say like, the easiest way to kill a passion is to study it.
yeah, probably. No, not at the moment. It's not on his wish list. He's talking about teaching now.
Well,
He's a manager in a Starbucks at the
yeah.
moment, and done really well. I think during lockdown we lost the plot with him and eventually put him out the house,
Well.
because we all worked in the health service and he spent his nights on the PlayStation at 5 in the morning screaming at the top of his lungs about die, 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 and lots of swear words. And
Mm,
I would come home for the night shift, and my wife and all my daughters would be in tears because he had them up the whole night long. And it wasn't a nice wee guy, as a teenager sometimes.
yeah.
And eventually it got too much for everybody. And we put him out, and it was the making of him.
Well.
Within a very short space of time, he realised that the things that we had been saying to him were true,
Mm,
and he had to get a better job, and he went and got a better job, and he got promoted and promoted and promoted, and now he's got his own wee flat. He's got a nice wee girlfriend. He's a manager at a very young
yeah.
age. He's only 23, and he's doing really, really well. And he is the nicest young man you could meet.
Mm,
So it's worked out really, really well for him, thankfully, because
brilliant.
it was a hard decision to make,
Yeah.
you know. But sometimes it's for the better.
Yeah. No, definitely. I can totally understand that one. It's your own flesh and blood. You don't want to do that, but if push comes to shove and if it's having an effect the family as a whole. Like, sometimes you just got to make that step. Well, and there's our situation, other side where like when I had to leave the home, like I was homeless for about 3 weeks, stayed at a mate's house for a week, and then stayed at mum and dad's for a fortnight. But they were away on holiday, and they'd said, look, you can still stay if you need to. But my own pride was like, I can't do that to you. It's like you're meant to be winding down, not having me like crashing on a fold out bed like for a fortnight. Like so I deliberately made myself homeless like so that I could get a place where I am now, because I was like, I don't want to do that to them. It's not going to benefit them in the long run. It's not going to benefit me in the long run. And it's like, and I need to get back on my own 2 feet. And it's the hardest thing sometimes that you can do, but if you know it's going to work out in the long run, it will. And I'm really glad that it's worked out for your boy.
Oh, it's, no one's happier than me, and no one's prouder than me of him now. I
Mm,
must admit, he's just a lovely young man now.
yeah,
A change. I think a lot of us go through that in our teenage years. And
yeah,
you see it maybe not yourselves, but you see it in your friends and things like that. There's some of them are just horrible at a certain age for a period,
yeah.
and then they mature.
Mm.
They meet a
What
good woman usually.
normally? What do you think it was the women that made the making of him, or do you think it was just the like get the heck out?
I think it certainly helped. I know it helped me,
Mm,
and I think it probably helped him.
yeah,
Uh,
that's what I always say. Like, my wife as well. Like I was just, I mean, I'm quite rudderless at the best of times, but I was really rudderless back then. What and then when I met her, it was like it kind of gave me that wee oomph to get my head at my backside, basically. But sometimes I've drove her more crazy than I probably should, and I freely admit that. But she's also been like the best thing that's happened, and that's why like when everybody's like, "Oh, he's a divorcing," and I'm like, "No, or no," what? Because no matter what happens, I can't picture my life without her. Like she's just a great person. What? And I'm just glad that she's still there.
Hopefully, it all works out in the end.
Oh,
The way you want it to work out, and I'm
yeah.
sure it will.
Yeah, as we always say, it's a never say never situation. But I'm just glad that no matter what, I'm just glad that she's in my life and she'll stay in my life. So I'm always happy about that.
That's it.
So
Just keep communication open.
I definitely. So when it comes to like also you do night shifts as well with the work that you do. How have you found like kind of going from, say, if you're doing a comedy gig at night and then having to dart off and do a shift and then you're coming back,
I,
during the day, maybe
I,
jumping onto a certain Ginger's podcast? I mean, how long does what you must be like running on fumes, man.
no, I've been doing night shift for 16, 17 years now, so I'm
Wow.
well used to it, and cope reasonably well with it at the best of times.
Mm,
I wouldn't normally go to my bed till about 11 o'clock anyway, so
yeah.
this is still within my period that I'd be awake,
Mm,
and fine. I'll be doing something because when you work night shift, that's one of the issues that there's still things that can only be done during the day that you have
yeah.
to do during the day, and so I'll run about and do them in the morning before I go to bed because I couldn't get up early and go and do them. I'd be
Yeah.
shattered then, but if I do them in the morning, I'm fine.
Yeah, because I did night
Um,
shifts when I worked for the NHS. It was only a 10-week deal when I was doing the archives, getting like patient folders and stuff. And I worked on my own. I was like, and even then, I hated working with myself at night time. I would have conversations with myself like, Andrew, your fart was bouffing, by the way. Sorry, mate. Just don't do that again. Who gives spaghetti at 11 o'clock at night? So I was like, yeah, I'm going slightly mad here. Like, I might need to check into Ward 24.
I genuinely think the people who work night shift on a regular basis are slightly screw loose.
Mm,
Um, I don't know if it's the lack of sleep and things like that that sometimes happens that
mhm.
leaves them slightly dafter. And you certainly have weird conversations on the night shift
Oh,
that
yeah.
for some reason nobody ever repeats to anybody. Um, Unlike if it was day shift, they'd be like, "Oh, wait, you hear the gossip about this person," but when
Mm,
they're on night shift, there's a camaraderie there that just doesn't exist on day shift.
aye.
And it's fantastic. I mean, you find yourself having the strangest conversations and finding out the strangest things about your colleagues,
Yeah.
and probably divulging some very strange things about yourself as well.
Yeah.
Um,
I think because the brain's just like, right, we should be resting here. Normally, all this stuff is like just stuff that's in our heads. Let's just let it out. There's no filter. It's 2 in the morning. Why not?
I think sometimes when you get really tired at 2, 3 in the morning or 5, 6 in the morning, and you just need to talk to keep yourself awake.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's that kind of
instead,
lull, isn't there, where you're like, it's like your stomach as well just feels kind of off because it's like we should be like resting. We don't know what we're doing here. You're feeding us like as many timeouts as you can, just trying to keep us going.
every hormone in your body's screaming, "Go to sleep, you idiot! Go to sleep!" And you're like, "No, I'm not allowed to. I can't."
Yep.
So, so you just talk rubbish because you've talked about all the sensible stuff in a
Mm,
short space of time. And night shift, if you do it for long enough, you're working with these people more than you're probably seeing your family at times, and
it's
you're
true.
spending inordinate amounts of time with them,
Yeah,
possibly more than your significant relationship. So you do just
definitely.
chat and chat and chat.
Mm.
And it can be a good laugh at times.
It can indeed. Well, we are starting to come up on time, and you will definitely be one of the most qualified people that will ask this question to. If you could give one piece of advice to anybody struggling with mental health issues at this point in time, what would that piece of advice be and why?
Get friends. I genuinely, I think when I retired, that was the one thing. I took 6 weeks off, and I think I probably had a wee touch of depression in that time. And I think that's one of the reasons I went back, because I was sat in the house myself during the day. My wife would be out of work, or she sometimes worked late, so she'd be sleeping. I'd have nobody in the house with me. I'd just have me and the dogs, and I craved human contact. And I think that's why I went back to work. And it's so important for people. It doesn't even have to be friends, just you need human contact. Everybody needs it. Don't lock yourself away anywhere. Go
Mm,
and talk to people. And men in particular, if you have a problem, it is, and I know it's a cliche, but it is okay to say, I am bloody struggling here. Can
mhm.
somebody help me? And
Yeah.
men are terrible at it. And I've been there myself, when you don't want to speak to anybody when you're having problems.
Mhm.
Um, and it's so hard to go and do it. But once you've done it once, you realise actually that did make me feel a bit better.
Mm.
And if you get past that one time and you realise that it made you feel a bit better, there isn't the stigma associated with it anymore. So try it once at least, and you'll get out there a lot further. But seek help if you have problems. Don't let them fester. Don't let them build.
Definitely, my friend. What and getting like the like support as well. Like in my case, I go to like a men's mental health support group, like, and that's been fantastic. Like it's just something that really helps when I'm needing to
Yeah,
get something out that I don't know if I can talk about to people because you know yourself sometimes people it can be too close.
yeah.
Like you
Oh,
do,
definitely.
like, and you're like I don't know who to speak to. So having a group like that is fantastic.
I think the things are really, really good. I'm planning on starting going to the walking football shortly, and
Oh, brilliant!
I think something like that will be good for me. To get out and get a wee bit of exercise with people
Yeah.
in similar situations to myself that are starting to wind down a wee bit in life.
Yeah. Well, as
Um,
you know, like I started going cold water dipping, well, and it's with the guys from the support group because I wouldn't have went if it was like my mates or like my family or whatever. Like, because with the guys there, I trust them and I know like I've divulged stuff to them. I've not told like my closest family, like so I know like if I
yeah,
fall, they're gonna catch me. Well, and then of course they also know that I'm going to use that for stand up comedy purposes, but I don't mention them, so it's all good.
you're obliged to.
Of
You
course,
have
well, if you have a comedic bone in your body, you have to realize it's kind of like you know how when you go to a call center and they say all records calls are recorded for training purposes. We
yes.
should have that disclaimer for stand-up comics.
Oh, definitely.
Like anything you
Um,
say can and will be used against you, but no names will be mentioned.
this the story I told last night, I didn't use any names. That was a completely true story about someone bursting into my kitchen
Yeah,
at a barbecue with about 50 people at it, and
yeah.
stripping naked because she was getting stung in the bum by a wasp.
You
Um,
you ended me with that. Like I was just like I was gone
and
at
if
that
something like
point.
that happens, you have a responsibility to tell that story because
Yes.
it's funny. Um, yeah, you have to.
Yep. You've got to tell these things like because when are they going to happen again? And if you don't, someone else will, and it won't be as funny.
Yeah, definitely.
Very true. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, man. Like, thank you so much for coming on.
And yourself, Andrew. Thank you very much.
It's been great, man. And like, all the gigs that are coming up, I wish you the best with them. And good luck with the comedy karaoke. Well, I'll
And
be watching that with great interest to see how that goes.
I'll film that one and put it up online, certainly, because it'll
Again,
never happen again.
that's a public service. It needs to be done. When you're a nurse, you know about the public service.
I'm not sure it'd be much of a public service. It'll certainly make a lot of people feel better about themselves when
Yeah.
they see it.
That's what we do it for. That's what we do it for.
Public humiliation.
Yeah. Well, me be the redhead, I've been used to that my whole life.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm married to one, so I know all about
Oh,
it. Thank you very much. And good luck yourself. Keep that going and add to it.
I
And
will.
I'm sure you'll be storming Edinburgh next year.
We shall see, as they say. We shall see. Well, until next time, my faithful followers, I've been Andrew Durnan. This has been Alex McNair. And until next time, take care. Stay safe. Bye bye.
Good night. Thank you, everybody.